Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're just going to do another velocity banking review. So we're going to learn how to overcome low cash flow with velocity banking. And oh my goodness, it's so simple. And we're going to assume two things, right? We're going to assume we don't make more money and we have zero savings. And we're going to go over that in a little bit. So in order to do velocity banking, there's only two things that we need to do. We need to have a budget. And as you can see here, I have a budget here. $4,000 of income, $3,400 of expenses, about $500 left over in savings. And as you can see here, we have an expense breakdown. So every single debt that we have needs to be listed because a debt is essentially a hole in our bucket of cash flow, right? And we're going to eliminate debt, increase our cash flow, patch up that bucket, and once we've gotten rid of our debt, then we can do whatever we want, right? So again, I'm going to show you the strategy, but we're going to say same income and no savings. And now that I've done so many of these, I've met so many six-figure people who are broke and who send me their spreadsheets. And now when I look at like $4,000 a month, which what is that, like 70, 80 grand a year, which is kind of a lot, or at least in my world, it used to be a lot but we have inflation nowadays. And I don't know if you've been to the grocery store lately, but I don't think the prices have changed that much. But when you open the packages, doesn't it feel like a little bit lighter, or the packaging feels just a little bit too big? It's that shrinkflation that I think is going on. But here's the thing. If we know how to pay off our debt, at least we can mitigate that shrinkflation, right? So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and assume that we have some an access to something called a line of credit. And so what's a line of credit? All it is a financial tool. We can borrow money, pay back, and use it over and over again. So simple, right? So that's going to be step number two. Line of credit is our main operating account. And if you have a credit card, that could be your main operating account. A little bit hard to use because we have better tools, or no, I wouldn't say better. We have more tools like personal or home equity lines of credit. And we'll just say that this person is a homeowner, right? You got a mortgage, you're probably a homeowner. Let's say you got it at the best time right before 2019, or I don't know, your home value exploded or something like that. And you also got a home equity line of credit right after, but you didn't know what to do with it. And we'll say it's 10%. I guess 40,000. My first home equity line of credit was I think 15,000. And because I think at that time my biggest line of credit, what was it? Like 5,000, 10,000. I was like, deal. you know? But yeah. So basically, let me go ahead and erase this and we'll start this from scratch. We're going to assume that we have a $40,000 line of credit, home equity line of credit, which is based on the value of your home minus all your debts that you have. So if your home values have appreciated, meaning that all the homes around in the surrounding area have been selling for a price that's been higher than what has been historically been sold, and or when you bought it, that's essentially going to allow the banks to think, oh my goodness, like, if this person defaults on their home equity line of credit, we can foreclose, or that's the theory, right? In general, banks will do anything to not foreclose because they don't want the property. They want the stream of payments over time, right? So just a little side note there. But again, let's assume we have access to home equity line of credit. My home equity line of credit has a 10% interest rate. If you have a first position home equity line of credit, can you leave a comment down below and tell me what your interest rate is? Because I've heard people saying they got 5%. And I don't know for sure because I've only had second position home equity lines of credit. And if you don't know what first position and second position means, that just means which lenders got dibs on your house if you don't pay them, right? That's essentially what that means. And mortgage is usually first, lines of credit usually second, second, third, fourth, fifth mortgages. Those are in that order, right? Like, but usually your primary home or your home, the first position is usually a mortgage. Okay, so let's go ahead and say, okay, we have essentially a $40,000 credit card available to us. Now let's see how we can reduce our expenses and increase our cash flow, right? Without doing anything, without making more money, right? So if I go in here, this is about $20,000 of credit card debt. Let's move this entire $20,000 here, okay? $20,000 of credit card debt. So what does that do? Oh my goodness, right? So let's go ahead and copy these figures. This goes to 0, 0, 0, simply by doing a debt transfer, right? So we magically went from 3,400 to 2,700, right? Now let's calculate our cash flow. And our cash flow went from this little itty bitty 500 where everything felt tight, especially because we have these 3 credit cards, to 1,200. Now what we're gonna do, so this is the actual velocity banking strategy, put your entire paycheck into that line of credit, expenses out, right? And if you want to do a more, I wouldn't say advanced, but you learn to use your credit cards effectively with this strategy, right? I would still use credit cards. And the reason I would still use credit cards is that credit cards have an advantage that home equity or personal lines of credit don't. If you keep paying it off in full, you keep paying your credit cards off in full, you accrue no interest. But when you take out money from a home equity line of credit, you accrue interest no matter what. Plus, also, you get some rewards points. So, what I would do in this case is that all this other expense stuff, I would just like use all my credit cards up to 1,300 and then pay it off the last possible moment from my home equity line of credit, if that makes sense. If not, ignore totally what I said. Okay, so now this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna calculate the next month's balance. And so we calculate the next month's balance as the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest minus the cash flow. And you can see that cash flow is 1,221.2, okay? And then we gotta calculate the interest. So usually if we do this, and we didn't have a balance before, then we have to wait the first month to get that interest calculated, multiply by 0.1, so 10%, right? And then you divide by 12, okay? And then now what we're gonna do is copy and paste this formula. Oh my goodness, it's so easy. You just need these 3 formulas, and then we're good, right? And then now we gotta wait when this goes to red or 0. And as you can see, it took us a little bit over a year to pay these 2 credit cards off, right? So let's go ahead and highlight this and then see 18 months. So let's just go ahead and write our milestones to pay off these 3 credit cards. So milestone, 18 months to pay off these 3 credit cards, and we increase our cash flow by simply making a change of behavior, by making our line of credit as our main operating account, right? So 20K of debt. We're gonna do this all for 3. Okay, so now I just want to reiterate the difference between column B and column C isn't like the average income, it's what's your main operating account. For column B, your main operating account is your checking account. You're paying out of your checking account all your bills and then putting your leftover, whatever you have in your savings, right? You're basically paying minimums on everything, including your auto loan and mortgage. What we want to do is immediately increase our cash flow, pay this off, and then attack these debts at a time. Usually with loans, they're higher balances and lower interest rate, and we have to treat that a little bit differently from other types of debt or other line type of the other type of debt, which is the line of credit debt or credit card debt, right? So now that it took us 18 months, we have to figure out what the loan balance is of the auto loan and the mortgage after 18 months, and then figure out, are we going to pay the auto loan first or are we going to pay the mortgage, right? I already know from doing this so many times that we're going to pay the auto loan first, and that's because there's 2 types of debt payoff criteria. You're going to pick the debt that has the lowest balance, highest interest rate, and highest payment, right? And then you could, if um, you know, if you don't have or if you don't want to use this traditional debt payoff criteria, so for example, this one's the lowest balance, this one's the highest interest rate, and then this one's the highest payment. So according to this, if we look at the debt payoff criteria, we'd probably pay the mortgage first. But if we use a cash flow index model, that's the statement balance over the monthly payment. And kind of think of it like this: would you pay $200,000 to get $1,000 back, or would you pay $22,000 to get $405 back? Right? That's how you kind of think of it. Okay. But let's go ahead and figure out the balance of these loans at this time. So what we're going to do is just look for amortization calculator. So I always like going to calculator.net, loan amortization. Much easier to calculate what the payment or the balance is using calculator.net than what's it called? bank rate, in my opinion, because bank rate only gives you the date and it's a little bit hard, whereas calculator.net actually gives you the month and year. All right, so 22,000, 5 years and 4%. And then now what we're going to do is figure out 18 months what the balance is. So 15,000, right? 15,000. Okay. All right. Whoopsie. And then 200,000. So 200,000 at 5%, right? So 30 years, 5% at 18 months. What is that? 18 months is 116. 116,000. No, this is 18 years. My bad. All right. So 195,000. Okay. You know, just look at how much interest the bank we pay to the bank. Oh my goodness. Okay. So now let's calculate that cash flow index. It's the statement balance 15854.78 divided by the monthly payment 405.16. And this one is 195,517.77 divided by 1073.64. Again, statement balance divided by the monthly payment. And yeah, as you can see here, hold on, 182.11. I want to get rid of the formatting, so which is why I'm redoing it. But as you can see here, this number is much lower than this number. And so according to the cash flow index model, whatever the lowest number is, you pay off. And if it's below 50, they say you definitely want to pay it off, right? So 39.13. And let's go ahead and I guess we could do this. We could just put, pay off that entire thing, which would be fine, into that. You could transfer into the line of credit you want, or you could just pay it off in little chunks. I actually think that paying off in they call it incremental payoff, will actually be less interest, just because you're putting this entire $15,000 into a 10% line of credit, even though it's 4% interest, right? Now, here's the crazy thing about auto loans. The average auto loan in 2023 was 700 and something dollars, right? And I remember when I used to drive Uber, okay? And I actually did the Uber lease program, and it was like $400 a month. And at that time, I was like severely criticized, like, "Oh my goodness, why would you pay $400 a month for a car?" And then now everybody's like paying $700. It's amazing how like the market for cars and homes can rapidly shift in an instant. So something that was considered like a rip-off price is now considered to be really good, right? But okay, so let's go ahead and move this into the line of credit, and um, we'll see how much how long it takes to pay it back. So now this is where we transfer that debt and increase our cash flow, right? So now this becomes zero. So what's our new cash flow? 1626.36, right? So now what we got to do is afterwards put 1626.36, 1626.36, okay? And so now we just keep doing that for until we go back to that zero balance again, right? So I actually should have done all three, but whatever. Okay, so now as you can see, it's going to take us about 28 months to pay off that car loan, right? So 28 months, and now it's going to be 44K, right? Or no, 42K, my bad. Got to add the $22,000 here to 20. And then now the only debt we have left is the mortgage, right? So again, what's funny? $4,000 doesn't seem like that much these days, right? Like, I feel like even like making $100,000 is like kind of broke. So if you're working at like Walmart and stuff, it's almost like because of inflation, you're not really like it's crazy. I think you just like I don't know how anybody survives at that level. I remember I used to work these minimum wage jobs and I felt like I was okay in Georgia back in 2015, 16. I actually worked at Checkers for like 1 month and I didn't last long. I actually worked at Checkers for like $9 an hour. I was like, oh, that's okay. Nowadays I'm like thinking I must have been insane, or maybe everything was just a lot more reasonable back then, right? All right, so now let's go ahead and focus on paying off this mortgage. So if you have a lower interest debt, right, well, that has a huge, much bigger balance to your line of credit, don't put the whole thing in your line of credit, and I'm gonna show you why, right? Because again, this cash flow index is very big, and when that cash flow index is very big, and you just transfer that to a line of credit, again, you're only getting $1,000 for $195,000 back. Or I'm sorry, if you pay off $195,000, you only get $1,000 back, right? That's not a big return. Now, if you look at the amortization calculator, yes, we should want to pay it off, because if we just keep going to the bank schedule after 30 years, we're going to pay about definitely almost 100% interest, right? Almost, right? So if the $200,000 is the loan and $186,000 of interest after 30 years, so we definitely don't want to pay that much. But what we're going to do is essentially just pay it off incrementally, or chunking, or whatever you call it. And basically, in order to pay it off, you just move chunks of the mortgage, about same as your salary, right, or monthly salary, into the loan. And then we'll just put in a calculator because it's much easier to do. But one of the ways that you could kind of think about this is, let's say, how long would it take to pay off, let's say, even 10,000, let's do $10,000. Like, how long would it take to go to 195 to 185K, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at that in the amortization chart. So amortization chart, so 195. So let's assume that what part of 195 we're at? 195,517. Wait, is this the right one? $200,000, 30 years, 195,517, right? So how long will it take to go to 195 to 185, right? So let's go ahead here. And as you can see, 185 will take us quite a long time. So at least 2 years, and we could say, almost 3 years, right? So almost 3 years, and look at all that interest that we pay when we get to 185. So let's just assume. So a little bit after year 4, let's just take a look how much interest we pay. Oh my goodness, look at all that interest. 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand. So it's about 40 grand of interest, and we don't pay that much in principal, right? So let's see what would happen if we just move 10 grand to our line of credit, and how long it would take to pay off. Now, this is actually an underestimation, because we're actually making a mortgage payment. So there's going to be a little bit of more payoff that we haven't really calculated, but that's what the calculator I'm going to show you is for. But I just want to show you this, right? So, okay. And as you can see here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to be 7 months at the most, right? Like if we did it incorrectly. But we haven't taken into account that we're actually paying off the monthly payment while we're doing this, because you still have to make the monthly payment. But something that was going to take us about, I don't know, a couple of years, it only took us a couple of months, right? So that's kind of like the whole idea of the incremental payoff. And I'm not really explaining that well, but here's the thing. I want to show you my cheat sheet calculator for this, okay? So let's go back here, and actually at 28 months, what's the current balance? Let's take a look at the current balance at 28 months. 28 months is going to be 192, so we haven't really done that much to the principal of the loan. Okay, so now we're going to do this, and we're just going to put it in our, I guess, cheat sheet calculator, right? And so all you got to do is input these numbers. And here's the thing, this calculator actually was provided to me by Renatus, where I first learned velocity banking from. And full disclosure, I'm an independent contracted marketer, meaning I make commission off of selling their educational products. So if you ever get on a one-on-one Zoom call with me, I wouldn't say I'm going to try to sell you them. I just only want you to enroll if you actually want to learn, right? Like, you can't force people to buy products no matter what. Like, to force them to buy something, especially if we're one-on-one and I don't know you, right? Like, I only want to sell you something if you want to learn. But I'll make some commission off of it, because again, I'm an independent contractor marketer for Renatus, and it's where I originally velocity banking from. All right, so now let's take a look at this. So what we're going to do is put in that mortgage payment, 1073.64, 1073.64. Put in our income as the amount that we're moving to that line of credit, and then our monthly income is 4,000. Living expenses is just everything except for the debt we're paying off. So it's just going to be 1,300, right? And then we'll see how long it takes us. 7.2 years, right? But look at the amount that has been reduced. Potential savings of interest from 162 we're going to pay, and it's going to take us 37,000, and we probably pay more than that because it's starting at 200,000. I'm sorry, 192 rather at the 200,000. So we haven't accounted for the other interest that we already paid. But take a look at this, 37,000, right? 37,000 of interest when we're going to pay 162 instead of a 30-year mortgage, just became a 7-year mortgage, right? Now here's the thing: in my world, 7 years is actually a long time because I've done calculations for my own personal um, I don't know if profile would be the right word, where I'm paying off a mortgage in like 3 to 4 years. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm a little bit pissed. If I saw this 7 years, maybe I'd be excited. But nowadays, just because I've done so many of these calculations, it's only it take me about 3 to 4 years to pay off a mortgage, which is like insanity for most people because the average American takes like 50 something years to pay off a mortgage because of all the refinances that they do. They get a letter from the bank, oh my goodness, they get a lower payment, and then they'll pull out their equity and then wonder why they're broke. All right, so now let's go ahead and write this down. And here's the thing: again, don't put the entire thing into the line of credit because take a look at this: 37,000, 7.2 years. Let's say that we did copy this number here and we put the entire thing into a line of credit, right? Look at how much that interest number goes up and even the number of years, right? We got to be careful about just blindly saying, hey, moving your mortgage into a line of credit is a good idea when we can't, when we're thinking about when we're not considering, let's say, cash flow, right? Like I said, would you pay $192,000 to get $1,000 back, right? So again, we do want to. So the thing about like loans, right, or why we even borrow money is that we borrow money to make it easier to maintain our cash flow, right? Because if we had to save up $192,000, that would kill our cash flow. But the trade off is that we're going to pay a lot of interest in exchange to maintain our cash flow easier. So we kind of want the best of both worlds, if that makes sense. All right, so now as you can see here, we're just going to move $4,000 into that line of credit and then put our entire paycheck in. So now let's go ahead and just put this. So it's 7.2 years. So what we're going to do is 7.2 plus 28 divided by 12. And then that's 9.5 years. So it's going to take 9.5 years to pay off 242. Is it 242? Yeah. Why did I get 244? Did I screw up somewhere? 4, 10, 10. Oh, I must have screwed up. Oh, did I screw up? 242, 244, 10, 20, 42. It's probably 242. I probably screwed up. All right, so $242,000 of debt. So not bad, right? Because we're in a low cash flow situation of $500, and now this is going to be zero, and then bam, $2,700. So this is going to be $2,700 a month in your savings account after every single month. Because guess what? Your debt's paid off, right? So now you could go ahead and enjoy life. But here's the thing: do you want to wait like 10 years? Not 10 years, 10 years to feel like, oh my goodness, the pinch is over. Like I don't have to pay for housing anymore. I mean, it depends. This is why I always recommend make more money, but do this at the same time, which is what I'm doing, right? Like by me literally making these velocity banking videos, that is valuable to the marketplace because that's why YouTube pays me, right? That's literally why YouTube pays me, because all of you are watching it and are addicted to these videos, which I had no idea. Like I literally would have no idea that people would have watched me like do this spreadsheet until I watched like how many people were into these other velocity banking videos. Because believe it or not, back in 2017 when I first learned this, I would like tell this strategy to other people and I would get like crickets, right? And so this is why it's important that you have to learn how to market and keep promoting yourself over and over again, because eventually you will find the audience that will want to learn what it is that you're doing. All right. So this is Korean Atlanta Mentorship. If you're interested in not only learning about velocity banking, but learning about financial literacy, real estate investing education, go ahead and click the Google form link below. Other than that, have a great night and we'll speak next time.